business to thrive, you must adapt or die. Welcome to Marketing in the Age of AI, the podcast helping you harness the power of AI and marketing tools to revitalize and grow your business. And now here's your host, marketing expert and author of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI, Emmanuel Rose.
Welcome to today's episode of Marketing in the Age of AI. I have a pleasure of speaking with somebody who will help us ferret and weather our way through the ever-developing landscape of AI tools and applications, and how to use it, and how he's using AI to not only update and leverage for his own use, but also how he's training agency owners how to use AI. And so it's my pleasure to invite and welcome David Baer to the show today. Thanks so much, David. I appreciate your time today.
Hey, Emmanuel, great to see you again. It was a great conversation that you and I had an opportunity to have on my own podcast, and so thanks for reciprocating and inviting me on.
Absolutely, I've been looking forward to catching up with you.
Yeah.
And first thing I'm curious about what you're seeing in the SaaS tool space, and if there's anything AI related that's interesting in terms of what either your clients are using as an SMB or your agency owners are seeing you're using.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can say that what I'm seeing there is overwhelm, right? And we see this already with all of the MarTech stuff that's out there in the world. When I do presentations, and I do a lot of them on the topic of AI for small businesses and for marketers, one of the pieces of my narrative is how much stuff there is out there. And I compare it to what has been tracked for, I think it's now 13 years by Chief Martech, which is looking at all of the SaaS tools, all of the marketing technology tools. That's everything from, the highly sophisticated ads analytics tools that, big agencies might be using, down to something as simple as Constant Contact or MailChimp, and everything in between. And as of this May 2024, there are over 14,000 of those. Okay, now layer on top of that all of the AI tools that have been developed just in the last couple of years since, ChatGPT made this major debut, and everybody and their mother wants to get in on the action when it comes to building tools, which have become incredibly easy. Well, if you go to one of these AI aggregator sites, like there's an AI for that.com,
right,
and you look at how many things that they have aggregated on their site, I don't know, the last time I checked was a couple of weeks ago, over 12,000, right? Now you put those two numbers together, that's 26,000 different tools out there.
Yeah.
And so when I say overwhelm, you can understand and appreciate how when somebody is just getting into this, they're looking at this mass of options to consider. And if you're being targeted, with ads for whatever, right? You're seeing, I see in my Facebook feed, dozens of different tools that are being marketed to me as a professional marketer, right? Everything from voice AI to content creation AI and so on.
Yeah.
And I got to figure out, I don't even know where to begin with this stuff. So overwhelmed, I think, is the best answer I can give you on that question.
Well, I'm glad to hear that other people are overwhelmed, and that I'm glad to hear the number, because I think that's the biggest challenge I have too. And I've given up on keeping track of it, right? And I actually have 6 of those aggregator sites that you talk about in order to stay up with what's coming out, because it is 100% overwhelming for us as marketing professionals who are on the forefront of this. And I can only imagine what it's like for a one-person show in a marketing department, right, who's running a $10 million a year marketing for their business. So, so then, what is the recommendation that you give to people on how they ferret their way through and figure out how to start leveraging some of these tools?
Yeah, I think there's 2 things that I recommend. The first is to really understand what AI is and what it does. And I think that there's still a lot, even in our space, the marketing space, where people are assumed to be technologically savvy.
Sure. Yep.
I teach marketers. In fact, right after you and I finish, I'm going to be jumping on my weekly AI for marketers call,
Nice.
where I end up talking to a couple of dozen marketers who are like, I've heard of this stuff, but I haven't even been willing to jump into it. So I think that the very first thing is to just get AI into your life in whatever means that is practical and appropriate.
Okay.
So here's how I recommend doing that. If we think back a couple of decades before search engines were at the core of the way that we operate, right?
Yep.
Everybody now just goes to Google or Bing or whatever, their search engine of choice is, but it wasn't always like that. So
Right.
how did we start using those tools? Try the same approach with AI. And it's very easy to do that on everybody's phone now. If you go into the Google app or you go into the Bing app, AI is right there side by side with those things. And
For
so
sure.
I was driving back from a classical music concert with my daughter, and she was asking me some question. Um, I don't remember what it was. It was about the composer or the style of composition or something. I think it had to do with um, impressionist music. And so I didn't know the answer immediately. And I said, "Why don't you look it up?" And she said, "Where should I look it up?" Well, I said, "Well, go over to the Google app
All right.
and ask the question to Google." But then there's a little toggle at the top of the Google
Right.
app that allows you to switch over to Gemini, the AI tool that they have. Ask the same question there and see what the two experiences are like, so that you can understand the differences of them. Okay.
Yeah. I love it. Yep.
So that's the first piece of advice that I have. The second one is, I think, more speaking to this overwhelm of all of the different tools out there. My advice is, do not start with the tool. Instead, look at what you're trying to address, what problem you're trying to solve, what issue you're trying to address in your business or in your life, and then go look for a tool that can help with that.
Love it. Yep. No, I love it. Yeah, I agree 100%. And I say don't just try one tool, but
Mhm.
try three tools, right?
Yeah.
And then see which one fits you, because UX and experience and all those are different. But I agree with you 100%. Is start with the journey of your customer, or the gap in your department or in your creative team, and then figure out how you're going to fill that gap to do better marketing,
Yep.
and then find the tool that fits that. So that's awesome. So what are you seeing with agency owners? I mean, are you seeing a consistent gap? Are you seeing consistent use of tools, or is it all over the place?
Well, you and I both know that agency owners is a very, very broad spectrum, and
Yeah.
so it is really all over the place. I mean, there are agency owners who specialize in certain areas of marketing to begin with. So those who are in the design end of the world are probably more aware of and tuned into the visual AI stuff, and quite frankly, that's not nearly as advanced or capable as some of the other ends of the AI world.
Right.
Those who are in the ad buying and media buying space, some are aware of the degree of either management or ad creation or analytics tools, but most are not.
Yep.
And then those who are in the content creation space, um, that's where I see the most amount of awareness, and also the least amount of depth of exploration of those tools, meaning that most of the marketers I talk to say, yeah, I tried it out and it really, gives me some pretty crappy output. So I'm just going back to the old way I'm doing it.
Right. No, that's amazing. I was talking to a CMO at like a $50 million a year company, and he's like, no, exactly that same thing. The chat churned out this C- work, and so I just sent everything right straight back to my
Mhm.
my writer, and we're just skipping it.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. Um, well, on like just copywriting, I mean, let's just talk about that for a second. Are you sequencing with a couple of tools, like Grammarly or those sorts of things? Or how are you recommending people dig in and use something like ChatGPT?
First, I would say figure out where your needs are, just like I was talking about a moment
Sure.
ago, and if it's uh, augmenting something that you're already doing, like a lot of correspondence, or you have emails sequences that you need to write, or you're in the business of writing out long form sales pages or video sales letters, right? Those are all different disciplines and capabilities that AI has the ability to support,
Yep.
but understanding, regardless of which direction you're going, what you want the output to look like, that then informs what the input to the process looks like. So for direct response copywriting, I don't actually use ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or Perplexity or Poe or any of the other tools that I have accounts on.
Yeah.
um, I've been using a tool that a copywriter named John Benson has created, and has really built out a really cool workflow for doing classic direct response copywriting with some neuro linguistic programming built in, and some other stuff that I geek out on.
Yeah. Right.
But for the most part, that's only appropriate for a certain use case.
Right.
Okay, so then going back to the how would I use ChatGPT? Again, I would figure out, okay, well, where are we trying to get to, and let's build something that accomplishes that. So I'll give you an example of how I did this with some of the marketers I train in my business. A lot of my folks in my community are really good at marketing others, but really, really terrible, as we all are, at marketing
Yeah.
ourselves, right?
I'm guilty of that for sure.
So one of the requests was, I used to do weekly emails. Now I do 3 times a week, and sometimes I've done daily emails. Um, but I've been a storyteller in my emails. And there's
Right.
a style to the way that I like to write emails, which is to engage with the story, make a clear point, and then have a call to action. So there's a structure to the email.
Sure. Yep.
And so one of the folks in our community said, "David, you're really good at this. I have no idea how to do this." I said, "Okay, why don't we look at the structure, and then let's build an AI tool." So I built a GPT
Sure.
to guide them through the process.
Love it.
Okay,
Yep.
so the GPT asks some questions like, what's the main point you're trying to make? What's the call to action? Who's the audience? What's the context of it? So there's like 4 questions that you need to answer. And then I have it suggest a bunch of stories that might be good lead-ins to that point. Okay, they pick the story, and then it gives you a draft of the email based on the style of the audience. Who's the recipient, what style I believe they would be most likely to engage most with, and
Love it.
then
Yeah.
some follow-up to adjust it. Right, that's a great use case for copywriting, but there's a process there. It's not simply write me an email about this.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, you're building a structure.
Mhm.
You're essentially guiding the prompt engineering or the prompt creation so that you're getting a good output. That's probably a B output that then you can go
Correct.
and clean up into an A plus that is client facing ready. Right.
Absolutely. And I think your point about giving the lower grades on that output in those 2 examples that you gave, that's, I think, important for everybody to understand, is the first pass is never going to produce usable quality content. 90 something percent not
Right.
going to be usable quality
Absolutely.
content.
Yep.
And so there's refiners that you can either run this through. You can create your own follow-up requests and have it refine the copy, the text for you, or you can just take what it does and finish manually.
Yeah.
Either way, there is a savings of time and
Absolutely.
probably an improvement of output quality that you get by using AI as part of the process.
Yeah, I agree. And then I like to front end it by pointing it to content that I've already written that's
Mhm.
already in my voice. I have a tool called avia.ai that I have warehoused all my books.
Mhm.
And so I say, in the same style as my books,
Yeah.
generate blah, blah, blah. And so, but even that is only B work, right? Even with all
Yes.
that, even with a very sophisticated prompt pointing to things I've already written, I still have to provide the creativity impulse from the human being for another human being to be able to hear it and respond to it correctly. That's what I'm seeing.
I think, part of look, most people don't need to know what's going on behind the scenes with AI in order to use it effectively. But, to the point that you've made about I still have to go back and do something even though I've given it the source material. Well, AI's capabilities are really quite limited. It's not as smart as we think.
Right.
It's based on recognizing patterns, recognizing things that it can imitate, and it does a so-so job of imitating some things and a better job of imitating other things depending on the quality of instruction that we give it and the
Right.
detail of instruction that we give it
Yep.
and the large language model we happen to be using to accomplish that. And so there's all of these variables that, it's not just one thing. It's a general technology and finding the right combination of both the tool, the engine behind it, and the human element of what we're actually contributing to the process. That's what's going to result in good or poor output.
Yeah, and there has to be a commitment or an acceptance that you have to think a little bit like the computer. You have to think a little bit about like the software. You have to
Mhm.
understand what the databases are. And so for me, I've said, I'm never going to think like a computer. I'm a philosopher, right?
Yeah.
Like I go write 1,000 words about a leaf blowing in the tree. I'm never thinking like a computer. But I like to have people around that can help and support thinking like the computer to get good outputs that save time if in fact that's what it will do. And of course, this is just generative copywriting we're talking about. It's not the dynamic model where we're able to pull in what the weather is like today and the price of gas and how to adjust and change marketing ads based on all these multivariant factors that
Sure.
are the dynamic part of, to me, what AI in another 2 years is really going to be amazing for us when we can integrate these 3,000 data points,
Yes.
and it's going to impact the pay-per-click ad on Facebook for the soccer mom that I'm trying to sell a bagel to, right? I
Mhm.
mean, that's the real magic, I think, eventually.
Yeah. I think two things I want to circle back on there. The first thing is 2 years from now, a lot of folks are trying desperately to take the tools and the technology that we have today and realize the outcome of what you've just described, right? And my
Yeah.
advice to them is wait,
Right. Yeah.
right? Other people with deeper pockets are building those things now and will have access to them sometime in the not too distant future. Don't don't spin your wheels and try to you know half-ass do something now that isn't going to produce the type of output that you want. The and the other point I'll make is I said, folks with deeper pockets. Well, Google and Meta certainly have already been investing heavily in artificial intelligence decision making on their platforms for years,
Sure.
long before any of this, consumer facing stuff has come about. And one of the ad buyers I respect tremendously has basically started instructing folks the ad platforms do all of the heavy lifting now,
Hmm.
particularly when it comes to targeting, etc., because they have more capability, not just with their knowledge database, but their AI capabilities of getting
Interesting.
that right message in front of the right person more so than you ever will by doing things the way we did things a couple of years ago when it came
Right.
to ad targeting.
Yeah, no, I think that's very smart way to interpret it, and probably even better than a third party that you could pay on your
Mhm.
behalf to do it. That's another software, right? Like why bolt on in that circumstance? Yeah, yeah, I think
we
that
we
makes
we
sense.
run we don't really have an agency anymore, but we do a little bit of work for some legacy clients, and we're running ads on the Meta network, and we're A/B testing. We're going with the targeting, and then with this advice that I just shared, which is absolutely no targeting, the context of the ad, and some very sort of broad targeting about location or gender or age
Right.
range is
Yeah.
all we're putting in. And we're seeing that it's neck and neck, or that the platforms AIs are actually doing a better job.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned 3,000 data points. That was a company I talked to. That's how many they're using. Talked to another company that's got 7,500 unique data points
Mhm.
for each record. So the good news is that we as humans can change, so we're not locked into
Yep.
their interpretation of us, right? But that is it's a lot more data points than I would have ever considered possible, and the algorithms are able to pull that. And I love that. I'd love to see if you guys publish a study on that A/B testing. I'd love to see that if they're even at just a high level
Yeah.
of what you've experienced. Um, you and I could talk probably the rest of the afternoon. I would, especially if we had a bottle of wine each. Um, I know you probably have some tools that people could get a hold of to help them start to think about some of these things. What's the best way to get in touch with you and see some of the resources about AI and marketing in general?
Sure. Well, I'll say that the stuff that I am doing with AI is kind of all across the board, and some of it is teaching folks kind of how to think through and operate the tools yourself. Some of it is the tools that I have built for marketers, and a lot of that is actually not managing marketing activities directly, but rather thinking about how can we as marketers have a broader role in supporting our clients' businesses. So a lot of the AI stuff that I've built for marketers is really about how do you support your clients through change management, or
Right.
leadership issues, or employee issues, or creating customer delight programs, things that marketers don't typically think about, but AI helps advance or augment our current capabilities.
Love it.
So I'll give you a general website where folks can find me, and that's Baer, Baer, on marketing.com. That'll sort of, give you the choice of what direction you may want to go to find more. But as I said, a lot of the things that I'm thinking about when it comes to AI and marketing have less to do with the tools that we've been talking about. How do you create marketing assets? How do you manage ads? And a
Yeah.
lot more to do with the bigger picture, because I think a couple of things. Um, I think that the marketing services structure, the agency model that we've come to know, has always been a broken system, right?
Sure.
And the more we're going sort of off the AI path here for a
That's
moment,
okay.
but
Or marketing. That's all good.
but the more that we diversify the range of channels that we have the opportunity to market, like just like all of those martech tools, the more overwhelmed and confused people get.
Yep.
How should I market? Where do I market? And as marketers, marketing service providers, we tend to be narrowly focused in either a single channel or a handful of things. Even folks who allegedly are in the full stack agency space are limited in where they tend to advise people to go.
Sure.
And so I have been a proponent of really expanding the role of marketing services to strategic planning, that is really more about, as in the corporate world they've done for several years now, revenue operations
Right.
before we actually even talk about what tactical activities we're going to engage in marketing. And that means marketers who are, on board with this concept have an opportunity to come into the relationship with their clients and start talking about bigger picture things, like how do we bring more money into the business, and how do we hold on to more of that money in your business. And that is not always going to be about getting more leads.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
In
For
fact,
sure.
it's usually not about that. It's about a lot of other things. And if marketers get a better sense of what all of that means in terms of the impact to their clients, then we can help them in a much more effective way. AI can certainly help support the increase in capability that a marketer has.
I love it. Yeah, I think that's interesting, and that the more that we can kind of fight our way out of the marketing only uh, idea or that silo, because sometimes it's not just us; it's also the CEO or the business structure that also wants to keep marketing separate from sales, and you're not going to operations meetings, and you're not allowed to send HR emails or help them make things look nice. So it is a bit more of a holistic picture,
Mhm.
and it is I do enjoy those projects the most too. The deeper I can be and the more I can be part of the management team versus just doing a portion or just being this little sliver of
Yeah.
something, just the pay-per-click ads or something like that, or just content marketing. So I love it. So what's next for David Baer, and what's on the horizon for you in the next in the near future?
Yeah, well, I'm continuing to keep my finger on the pulse of AI. It's a fascinating world. As I'm seeing more of the marketing automation tools, and we're very deep into the Keep, formerly known as Infusionsoft world, and seeing what they're developing and working with a lot of the marketers who are certified partners there. We're getting a better sense of where the SMB or SME, if you're not here in the U.S., world is thinking about taking on technology in their business. That's really at the core of what I'm doing. And I split my time pretty much equally between working with marketers, helping them achieve what I was just talking about in terms of playing a bigger and deeper and I think more significant role in the improvement of their clients' businesses, and that's a rallying cry that I am leading as the charge on as much as I possibly can
I
over
love
the
it.
next couple of years, because I think with so much change in the world, not just in the marketing world but the world in general, the more we can help support the businesses out there who desperately need some guidance, we ought to do it if we're able. So.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time today. I love the conversation. I hope I can get you back on the show again in a few months, and we
Love
can
to do it.
see what's changed and what stayed the same. And again, how do we get a hold of you if we want to check in with you, David?
Sure. So it's Baer, that's Baer, on marketing.com.
All right. Thanks, David. You have a great day.
You too.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Marketing in the Age of AI. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Your copy of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI is available at Amazon.com or EmmanuelRose.com. You can also connect with Emmanuel on LinkedIn. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.